This is Behind the Mic with Kirkus Reviews, where the subjects are audiobooks and the actors who narrate them. I'm Jo Reed, and with me today, contributor Stephen Cummings. Hello, Stephen.
Hi, Jo. How are you this fine day?
I'm fine, actually, because it is a fine day, so I'm happy about that. What are the three books you're going to talk about, Stephen?
So the three books I pulled together, you could thread them in two different ways. They all center around a geographical location of Southern California, and they feature voices of people who are trying to get their voice back, as it were, and it'll make sense as we go. The books I'll be talking about today include Escape by Stephen Fischbach, narrated by Julia Whelan, Imani Jade Powers, and Sean Patrick Hopkins. I'll also talk about Paper Cut by Rachel Taff, narrated by Helen Laser, and Crown City by Naomi Hirahara, narrated by Brian Nishii.
All right, so we're starting with Escape by Stephen Fischbach, and this has gotten a lot of interesting press.
It sure has, and I'm going to start by just asking you a question. And do you watch reality TV shows, things like that, those competitive shows where people are off somewhere kind of fighting it out, as it were?
No.
Easy answer. Absolutely no.
I really don't. Yeah, no, I don't.
Well, I have to say...
I mean, not for any highfalutin reason, but I just don't.
Well, I have a hard time getting to TV these days, but I will tell you that in my lifetime, I've experienced a few of these. Now, Escape is based on a really, really popular show, and let's talk about it. First of all, this is an Earphones winner, and this is also the debut novel by Stephen Fischbach. He is a television executive right now. He's also a two-time contestant of the reality show Survivor. In all transparency, I have never seen a single episode of this show, but by virtue of living in the United States, it's been inescapable for me to at least be aware of it.
Absolutely. It is so much a part of the culture. I mean, when somebody says they're going to get voted off the island, I know exactly what they're talking about.
Indeed, it's baked into our vernacular now, even if you've never seen the show. And it's been around for since the early 2000s. It's in its 50th season. How that works, don't ask me. But it's helpful to have that background. So even if you've never seen the show, you might find the book interesting. The background is essential for this audiobook because the story unfolds very authentically. So Stephen is writing a novel, but he's writing from his experience. Now, I've seen a few of these shows in my life. Like I said, never seen Survivor. And that's the show that this book appears to be based on. I'm just going to take that. I'm going to estimate that. It's effectively written, though, so you don't need to have seen a single episode of that or any reality TV show to really appreciate where this book is going. So the synopsis is that you have several characters, and they're all at different stages of their life trying to win back or earn back or kind of find their way back. We start with a character named Kevin Duvall. He is a pop culture sensation, or he was after winning a popular reality show, but since then his star has dimmed. He's given the chance, however, to appear on a new competitive show with a simple premise: to survive, solve challenges, and then escape. So hence the title. Another character is Beck. She is the show's producer. Now, she is struggling with her own reputation that has been tarnished. This book opens. One of the opening passages includes what the event that leads to her public downfall. Now, it's pitch dark. It's humorous to a fault.
I mean, okay, I'm just going to say what it is because I've listened, and early on, I'm giving nothing away, but a dog does die. And I am somebody who really wants to know if the dog is going to die. I, in fact, subscribe to her website, Does the Dog Die?
Yes.
So I can find it in any movie or TV show. But as somebody who is extremely sensitive to that is an absolute trigger for me. And I really hate the word trigger, but boy, does that trigger me.
You know, when I put this book up for a discussion, it occurred to me far after the fact that I should have let you know ahead of time that isn't even. And when I say humorous, I don't mean it's ha-ha.
No, it's not. But I just feel the need to say it wasn't horribly upsetting. I mean, I felt like I could listen on. I didn't feel like, oh, I'm not listening to this anymore.
Right. And I want to point out that really is partly the writing and also how it is voiced. Let's get to that.
Yeah.
Because handled the wrong way, I would have probably bailed on this book. If this book felt like it was just kind of covering it as a cheap joke or a cheap moment, whatever, I probably wouldn't have gone the distance. But let me say this. First of all, you have Julia Whelan, and she voices the point of view of Beck. Whenever I hear a performance by her, by now, I think one of the things that she does really well are these emotional, deep arcs of someone who is trying to overcome something. She does this really well. And so I appreciate not only how it's written, because the book takes it seriously. The book, this is a thread throughout the entire book. And her voice performance here is just, it matches it well. So I was able to go with it after that horrible first event and then follow through to the end. And so, again, of course, she's a legend in the narrative world. So I had confidence that I'd be in the right hands. Sean Patrick Hopkins, he performs the voice of, for lack of a better phrase, the alpha male of it all. He's the one who is trying to win back his reputation. He used to be stopped on the street all the time. He enjoyed his fame. He would fill large spaces to do speeches about whatever, overcoming obstacles. So he's trying to get back to that as well. So this opportunity to be on this show is a big one for him. So we're following him along. And again, I don't like those kinds of characters in real life. So to appreciate a book where that performance is really selling it to me, I found his performance very enjoyable. The third performance that is key, and also an archetype of this type of show, is by Imani Jade Powers. And she captures this reality show persona of this really seemingly timid or very gentle, nice person who, I don't even know how they get on the show. Why are they here? They're never going to last. And then somehow they last. Somehow they just continue to go forward, and they know, or they learn how to play the game. And that's a fun character as well. Anybody who watches this type of genre probably knows this character very well. I say they probably show up in every one of these episodes of shows. So here she is, and she does a wonderful job also bringing you along in this whole story.
I thought the three narrators were really wonderful. And I just want to give a special shout out to Imani because, initially that's sort of a thankless role she has of voicing Miriam, who is timid. And you have these two powerhouse performances going on, and she literally has to be understated because that's the character. And she does that so well.
I completely agree. This is a big audiobook, like you said, lots of personalities, and she matches them, and it makes the whole thing just an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, it really is about the underbelly, the mechanics of reality TV, how the producers manipulate the contestants, what the contestants are really, really after. Both Beck and Ken Duvall, they both want a shot at redemption.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a clip for us. What are we going to hear?
So what you're going to hear in this clip is it's really the introduction to the story, and it's an introduction to the character voiced by Sean Patrick Hopkins. And he's going to set the scene for the life of this once very visible, very famous winner of this show, who is not in his best position right now. Perhaps there's things he needs to do or things that are going on. So that's what I'll do to set up this clip.
This is Escape by Stephen Fischbach, narrated by Julia Whelan, Imani Jade Powers, and Sean Patrick Hopkins.
When the phone rings, Kent Duvall is in the memorabilia room, watching himself on the reality show Endure. On days when he is feeling his age and the slab of gut hangs like an anchor at his waist, he will pop the disc into his DVD player, which clicks and snaps like an arthritic joint. He doesn't need much. The show's intro features a 3-second slow-motion shot of him pounding his chest in the tropical light, hair billowing around his face. God, he had epic hair. Long, blonde locks that, in the island's unreasonable humidity, looked like they belonged to the lead singer of an 80s metal band. Last year, his wife Margaret insisted he shave his head. "You're starting to look like you have a comb-over," she said, walking her conversational tightrope between loving joke and withering insult. He'll watch that 3-second clip again and again, rewinding and replaying, and think to himself, that is me.
That's not just great descriptive writing, it's also a great beam into a character. And I think it's such an excellent reading because Sean Patrick Hopkins, in his voice, really portrays that longing for the past, for my glorious youth. Boy, it's very good.
Yeah, I loved that, and it really kind of brought me into his character almost immediately as somebody I kind of want to root for. And that's where that journey starts. So I really liked his performance.
Yeah, I agree. I'm really enjoying this book, or finding it interesting, because there are parts where it's horrifying, but it's still interesting. So let's move to Paper Cut, another jolly book.
It is. I've really picked some fun ones this week. But Paper Cut also set kind of in this area with the same industry at play. Let's talk about it. It's by Rachel Taff, narrated by Helen Laser. And this is also set in the Southern California area. Now, here, a young woman escapes a dangerous cult, but then confronts her traumatic past when she agrees to participate in a documentary about that experience. So that's the setting. Two things to note here, like Escape Paper Cuts, it's also a debut novel. And this story also features the pressure of a Hollywood or a Hollywood like system. So in both stories, the main characters are trying to survive while struggling to reconcile with their pasts. Here, the audiobook centers on Lucy Golden, who is a teenager who committed an act of murder in order to escape a cult. She wrote a successful memoir accounting that story. Yet Lucy is still struggling, and she's targeted by people online. There are trolls that are calling out to her. She's dealing with a stalker, and she's also struggling with a difficult relationship with her mother throughout the story. And that's a whole character in and of itself as well. So a lifeline does appear when a documentarian reaches out with an offer to include Lucy in a new movie about her experience. However, his motivations are also progressively unclear. What is his motivation for creating this movie?
I listened to all of Paper Cut.
Okay.
And Escape looks at the mechanics of reality TV. I think this one is looking at both the allure and the trap of true crime in some ways.
That's a really good point to make out about true crime, because that really pulls people in and kind of it tries to tell their story, but there's a sense of exploiting it as well.
Absolutely. I think so as well. And though 15 years, how many years have passed? 20 years since she left the cult and committed an act of murder. Since that time, she's sort of been a professional victim survivor. That's her bread and butter.
Yes.
That experience. And that becomes very interesting, that commodification of that experience.
Yes, indeed. And I think that for folks that are, again, we're talking about what you listen to or what you're a fan of. For fans of true crime, you're probably very, if you're listening to this and relating to that, you've probably seen and experienced some of these types of things where there is a kind of commodification of one's traumatic experience. It's a very delicate thing to think about. I'll note that in this audiobook, the chapters do alternate between Lucy's story and also the memoir that she wrote. So one chapter will be the memoir and one chapter will be her current day. And I should say, in the original book that she wrote that appears as alternating chapters, she's writing as a first person account of her indoctrination and eventual escape from the cult. So as I listened to this, I had to remind myself, oh, we're in the book now. Okay, now we're in present day. And I needed to give myself a beat to make sure I wasn't losing track of where we were in the timeline. But Helen Laser's performance of Lucy gets to the heart of somebody who is a survivor and is somebody who is struggling against the pressure of people who may still be manipulating her. So I give a lot of credit to Helen Laser's approach here and what her skill here and to convey these dual timelines. And overall, she does this really effectively. Occasionally, like I said, needed to remind myself what timeline we're in, but that's not significant. I think that it just requires active listening on the part of the listener.
Yeah, I agree. If I wasn't sure where I was, it really didn't take me long at all to locate myself, because I thought I really liked Helen's performance here. I thought she handled the book's darker undercurrents with a lot of restraint and let that unease build naturally, so you feel the emotional stakes without really being pushed into them.
Yeah, again, it's a really well written debut novel, and I think her performance really conveyed the complexity. There's a lot of layers here and a lot of complexity, which I completely appreciated.
So what are we going to hear?
The clip we'll listen to here is Lucy deciding to work with this new hotshot documentarian. And Helen Laser emphasizes this, like I said, this kind of confidence. She's trying to bring up confidence. It's not clear if the confidence is coming from a real place or if she's just trying to find the energy for that. But as a listener, I found myself really empathizing with her desire to at least hold her life close. She got to write her own memoir, but now someone else is going to be in charge of telling this story through the documentary. That's a challenge. So that's the bit we'll be hearing here.
Here we go. It's Paper Cut by Rachel Taff, narrated by Helen Laser.
The night before I'm supposed to meet Isaac, Mom and I watch Isaac's documentary, Buckhead Butcher. I've seen it twice already. Once last fall when it premiered, and again the night of the She Slays event in the privacy of my bedroom. But I'm not about to admit that out loud. Isaac's omniscient voice is woven throughout, but we never see his face. For some inane reason, film critics liken his unoriginal narrative device to speaking on the audience's behalf, asking questions they'd ask and, effectively, removing himself from the film. But all I can obsess over is the hack whom the voice belongs to. What does he want from me? While I plow through spicy fusilli and large spoonfuls, Mom barely touches our spread of John and Vinny's takeout. She's too busy blurting out her every thought in 3-minute increments.
The other thing I really want to talk about with Helen's narration is the pacing and how that really underscores the tensions that are just beneath the surface.
Yes. And again, I think if someone were to come at this differently, it might not have hit that really important note throughout the entirety of this book. And that's something that I don't think is just something that comes naturally. It's a skill. And I give Helen Laser full credit for being able to convey this, because it's a very complicated story about trauma and how we kind of deal with it in this modern era. So I really appreciated that approach that she took.
And now book number 3, Crown City.
Crown City, this is the third one. This is another Earphones winner. This is by Naomi Hirahara, and it's narrated by Brian Nishii. Now, the setting here, again, this is Pasadena, so we're not leaving California this time. The synopsis here is 1903. Ryui is a Japanese immigrant. He arrives in Pasadena, and he is here to make a new life and immediately experiences, as you can imagine, a significant culture shock while getting himself established in this new American space. He sets up home in a cramped living space filled with various interesting characters, and it's not clear at all to him, and of course not clear at all to us, who he is able to trust. He does eventually develop a relationship with a mentor, an artist named Toshio Aoki. But when one of Toshio's paintings goes missing, Ryui is swept up in the search, having to move around the LA area in search of clues while facing growing racist attacks. So I'll note that this book feels in some respects like historical fiction, and it's also a kind of mystery. It's kind of a detective story. So I thought it was a nice, interesting blend of those two genres together.
It's also book 3 of Japantown Mysteries, the series that Naomi Hirahara has created. And the first 2 were linked, but this one is very much a standalone. And she really is a great social historian as well as a fiction writer.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure. And I'm glad you noted that too, because when you pull this book up, you'll notice it was in some places, it's marked as number 3 of the series. I'm entering the series with this one, and I did not feel lost in the slightest, but I am motivated to go back and take in the first 2.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
And again, this theme, like I said, voices under pressure, and I'll start there and connect it to the narrative choices that Brian Nishii is making to this performance. We have an environment that is rich in historic detail, which I loved. This is, of course, not the modern LA space yet, but it's coming. And listeners can sense this with the evolving class structure. And there are some real-life characters that appear that I'll leave you to discover as you listen. And I can imagine a few ways where this narration could have gone in the wrong direction or in the wrong hands. I always say this, but I always like to give credit to these really subtle but important choices that are being made here. It could have been a little bit over the top. It could have been a little too consistent where the voices don't shift around as much. But one of the strengths about this performance is how Nishii seems to capture that time and place with a voice that's truly vulnerable. He's truly empathetic. He's also trying to capture the voices of the American characters. There's also European immigrants here. He really helped me understand the different characters, but he's just one person doing the voices. I want to note that Brian Nishii is, of course, he's done a number of books over the years. Most recently, he's done books including The Family Chow. He did an update of The Tale of Genji, which be prepared. That's a 35-hour book, and that's just a part one. I studied that back in college, and I'm still kind of recovering from that. I did listen to his narration for Musashi, which is it's a kind of samurai drama that was over 20 hours. I really enjoyed the performance. Really kind of propelled all of that. I want to just note how good he is.
And he also does a lot of young people's books.
He does.
Too.
He does.
He really narrates a wide range of books. He's incredibly talented.
So again, giving Brian Nishii all this credit, because I can't state enough how much I appreciated his work here.
Yes, I agree. I thought his narration was very finely textured.
The character has to talk to himself about, what do I make of this? What do I do about that?
Right.
And that really helped me understand, because he's a character talking to himself a lot of the time as well, because he's trying to navigate this strange new world. So it was just I just enjoyed this so much. I'm so glad to talk about it today.
So let's hear a little.
So here we're going to hear the character of Ryui. He's going to assess his new living situation and the new people he is interacting with, the other immigrants who are already veterans of living in this new Pasadena area. Nishii conveys this sort of tenuousness Ryui is experiencing as he assesses his surroundings and essentially his new life.
All right. Crown City by Naomi Hirahara, narrated by Brian Nishii.
Mr. Goto was still balancing my wicker carrier on his shoulder as Victor pushed through the front door unannounced. Only a cheap bell tinkled from the top of the door. I followed my welcoming party through a small, worn parlor and past a long, scuffed table that seemed to be made out of Australian cedar, plain but durable. "Hello!" Victor called out. We traipsed up the wooden stairs. It felt strange to step inside a house with our filthy shoes, but then the house itself looked untidy, so it seemed not to matter. "Jack!" Victor shouted at a second-floor room located in the front of the house. "Your new roommate has arrived." The door was ajar, but there was no response. Instead, a narrow door facing it flung open, and an Asian man with a mop of wavy black hair appeared, the sleeves of his button-down shirt folded up to his elbows. He wore round wire spectacles, and something in his nature seemed forever youthful, but when he began to speak, I could tell he was at least a decade older than me. "I told you, Victor, that I prefer living solo."
I love this. It's such a vivid picture.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Brian delivers it so well. I really like the energy here, the way it conveys what it's like when you're in a totally new situation, and everything is sort of coming at you.
Those are the kinds of stories that I just enjoy so much, because we're with the character as they're going through these new things in real time. Of course, it's historical, but we're with him at this moment. And it was just a pleasure to experience that.
Great book. Thank you for recommending it.
Oh, yes, my pleasure.
And Stephen, a pleasure to speak with you as always.
As always, I'm so thrilled to talk about these books and to talk with you, Joe. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'll talk to you next month. Thanks, Stephen. Behind the Mic is brought to you by Nelson Books, publisher of Jenny Allen's latest book, The Lie You Don't Know You Believe. It's narrated by Jenny and featuring exclusive audio content. It's available everywhere you get your audiobooks. Behind the Mic drops on Thursdays, and if you follow us, we will simply appear in your feed. And while you're at it, follow Fully Booked by Kirkus Reviews. Fully Booked is the podcast for book lovers. Each Tuesday, host Megan Labrise brings you author interviews, industry insights, and recommendations from the bestseller list. Find your next great book on Fully Booked by Kirkus Reviews. You can follow Behind the Mic and Fully Booked on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, or wherever you get your podcasts. Then stop by kirkusreviews.com to check out reviews for both print and audiobooks. Behind the Mic is produced by Jessica Lockhart, Michelle Cobb, Stephen Cummings, Leslie Fine, Alan Minskoff, Alex Ritchie, Laura Rossi, and Kendra Winchester are our contributors. Jennifer Dell is our editor, with assistance from Alicia Langerman, and Tom Beer is the executive producer. The music is William Ross Chernoff's Nomads 4-Way, and I'm your host, Joe Reed. Good listening.